change in their country. I mean, in the US, Florida parts of Florida could be submerged. Hurricanes, the kind of Katrina variety, could be much more intense. And of course, the damages done by hurricanes go up very sharply with the wind speed, and the wind speed goes up very sharply with the temperature of the water. So they could be vulnerable in the Gulf and in south east from hurricanes. But more importantly, the water stress in California could be still more intense. If you look at China and India, the melting of the snow covers and the glaciers in the Himalayas would have a profound effect on water supplies. I mean, there's a sponge that holds the water through the year, and the melting of those feed the rivers. And if you didn't have that, or had much less of that sort of sponge in the glaciers and the snow cover, you would find that you get torrents for some parts of the year and dried up rivers in the other parts of the year. So I think if the monsoons, and we don't know what will happen to the Indian monsoons with this kind of temperature change, but it's quite likely that something fairly radical would happen to them, affecting the livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people in the Indo-Gangetic Plain. So I think each country has to begin by understanding what the effects could be for them. But I hope they would also want to understand what the effects could be for other people. So both of these should be part of the story. And then people have to understand how an international collective action could function, or indeed how it couldn't function if people deliberately stood back and said, well, I'm not going to do anything until everybody's done everything. And then, of course, nothing happens. So people have to see their own role as potential disruptors and deal breakers. They have to see the idea that if they try to free ride, particularly if they're a big country, then we wouldn't get anywhere. But on the more positive side, I think people have to respect and understand what others are doing. And one of the things we recommend is that you should have somebody, and we point to possible somebodies who could do this, collecting evidence in a reasonably disinterested way on what countries are doing on R&D, what they're doing on pricing carbon, what they're doing on standards and regulation, as well as, of course, what they're doing on emissions themselves, so that you can look across the range of policies that a country has. So it's wrong, as I've already argued, for the United States or anybody else, Australia's fond of saying it, saying that China's not doing anything. Till China does something, we're not going to do anything. Well, that's wrong. I mean, China actually has begun to get their arms around this problem. People often knock the United States for not doing much. Well, again, that's not quite right. I mean, they are actually pushing ahead quite strongly at R&D. And, California is moving strongly on standards and trading, and so the northeastern states, some cities too. So if you get a build-up of people understanding what others are doing, and then together they start to argue, well, actually, we could do a lot more of this, and we could make it much more effective. That's kind of a much more positive part of the story. Seeing the benefits of trading, that you link up with other countries, you can keep your costs down, you get more emissions reduction for your money. Seeing the benefits of R&D sharing. I mean, the Asia-Pacific Partnership is such a thing. So I think the possibilities of building alliances are real, but they have to be founded on this kind of common understanding of what could happen to everybody, including yourself, and the idea that your country could be a deal breaker. So it's not simply, oh, well, I'll stand back and let them do it. If you do that, nothing much might happen.
Guy Gantley in Global Economy Group. Well, you've already covered quite a lot of what I was going to ask, but I did wonder if you could say something about the dynamics of moving towards the sort of global agreement that you said at the outset you were reasonably optimistic might be possible, and the time frame in which it might happen. And I have in mind in particular the role of the major players like the US and China. And I wonder if as part of that you could say something about the way in which the costs of mitigation will be